right? And by the way, you should know, I'm going to share something very political here if you want to hear, by the way. Okay? I'm sure you know that there was a recent, a few months ago, there was a whole big controversy where people dug tunnels next to 770 and they broke certain places to expand 770 illegally. Right, and they got arrested, and it was on the TV, and it happened to be just as Israel was taking down the Hamas tunnels there, right? Now, I want to tell you a little bit of the history behind why those people did what they did, okay? The reason those people did what they did is because the Rebbe, when he spoke about what you said about building the Beis Hamikdash at the Beis Hamikdash Shebebavel, which means the great rabbi's temple of Babylonia, which means the exile temple, right? The Rebbe spoke about that particular sicha called Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel was actually said as preparation to re-renovate the entire 770 and expand it all the way to the next block. Okay, the Rebbe, when he said that sicha, there were published plans. Okay, you can look it up, you can find them. I've seen them. There was published plans exactly how 770 was going to be built all the way to Union Street, and they were going to pretty much double the size of 770. And only after they came out with those plans, the Rebbe said that sicha as saying that we're going to build the Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel by expanding 770. Now, guess what? Never happened. The whole sicha, and I pointed this out to Meshachistim, right? The people that are all into Rebbe's Mashiach, and they tell me the things like you say, build. Well, guess what? It never happened. The Rebbe spoke about that sicha was all about expanding 770 to Union Street, and it never happened till today. Now, what happened is, by the way, I don't know if it's my fault. I don't want to say this 100%, but it might be my fault because we live here in Tzfas. And there's a massive Mishachist movement over here in Tzfas. A lot of the Messianic Chabad people are here in Tzfas. And you have no idea that I'm here now for 10 years. And over the last 10 years, I must have had this conversation with Mishachistim numerous times where I yelled at them. I said, what, you're coming around with Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel? Never happened. I was shoving it in their face all the time, and these guys are like, "What? You're serious?" And then they do the research, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? You're right. It could be my fault. Maybe I stirred up the whole trouble. It could be because I've been saying this all the time that the Rebbe's sicha of Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, at the end of the day, never happened. Okay, he came out to expand 770. 770 was not expanded.
It says in the sicha about expanding 770.
Yes, it does. That's the whole sicha is about expanding 770. The whole sicha is about expanding 770. As I told you, there were actually plans. They were published. You look like you're young enough to be there. You probably remember what I'm talking about. They published it. They asked every single chassid should give $770 towards the plan. My father actually gave it. They even had these little plaques that they put up there. If you gave $770 towards the project, my father gave it. Many other people gave it. And for some reason, they started the project and they built a little bit, but the project somehow got stalled and completely. And then shortly afterwards, the Rebbe had a stroke, and then it never continued.
Remember the crazy Archipelagos they wanted to build the park?
Again, that's also when the Meshachistim came about this big palace. So I told them, "What, you want to build the Rebbe's palace before you build the Rebbe's shul?" I also used that against them. So I'm telling you, you should know. By the way, don't tell too many people. I think that I might have been. I don't know if I'm completely at fault, but I think I'm definitely a little bit at fault for those tunnels being built because I kept on shoving it in their face, and they probably at one point are like, "Hey, you know what? We're fighting to build a castle in Kfar Chabad. Let's expand 770." And before you know it, they actually. So what they did was, again, I kind of got lost on this. What happened is that these radical Chabadnikim, if you could call them that, people that are like, "What? The Rebbe said to expand 770? They're not expanding 770. We're going to expand 770. We're going to do it ourselves." And what did they do? They took a bunch of hammers. They took a bunch of sledgehammers, and they started knocking it down, and they started expanding it on their own. And apparently, they even did certain things that are dangerous. They don't care. They're just kind of breaking walls, digging tunnels. No, they didn't. That's the whole problem. Apparently, they ended up getting arrested. I said they had to arrest them because these guys were crazy, man. No, these guys were crazy. They were going to build until the whole building falls down. They're knocking everything down. So they had no choice. They had to call the cops. They called the cops on them, and the cops had to arrest them. And it was on TV. It was like a whole thing. Like, oh, they're building tunnels in 770. So again, for those of you who want to know the true story behind that, it's because the Rebbe said we should expand 770. It never ended up getting expanded, and these guys were like, "That's it. If the Rebbe said to expand and it didn't expand, we're digging." We even have somebody over here. He wears a Mashiach pin in the shape of a shovel to show his support for this particular movement.